the way that our commercial AI services are built today have pretty much a Western flair to them in terms of the kinds of data that they bring to the party and how they understand it. And if we're baking biases into it, how do we check to make sure that what we're doing when we evaluate candidates or look for fit, are we actually doing ourselves a disservice?
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, Robert Kramer here with more insights and strategy on episode 28, Analysts Gone Wild. I got a great team of crazy analysts here, hopefully in good moods. Right, guys? Right, Thomas? And we're going to handle and talk about all these great stories that are going on around the world, hopefully not get into politics or too much things that are adverse to the community that's watching. But anyway, let's go around the horn. Start with Thomas. Where are you at today? I know you moved. You in a good mood? Is it going well? And then we'll go around to all the other gentlemen on the call.
Smiling. It's last that is left, probably. Yes, I have moved.
You haven't lost any more hair, in the transition. So
no, I haven't lost any more hair, luckily. The kids cared for that. No, just kidding.
The rest of us are hanging on to it for dear life.
Yeah.
Anyway, tell us what's going on today.
If I'm not moving across this continent, I'll take care of and cover CRM-ish processes, including whatever includes these days, whatever's AI-ish, because there's no CRM without AI anymore, or else.
Or good data, right?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, Shishish, what's going on? How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me to this wonderful group of analysts. And it's already almost August. Can you imagine?
Oh my God.
If I was gone so fast. So really interested in what you all are going to share on this.
Yeah, we got some good stuff today. So hopefully the stories will be enlightening to the ones that are listening, but also inspire us to come up with some new things to talk about. So Ken, what's going on with you?
Well, it's interesting because I have actually been looking at the calendar myself, and I am just reminded of Tempus Fugit, not come back it. It's just years passing by, and I'm feeling it.
Yeah. How are you feeling it? Like activities or just life?
Both activity as well as a general sense of, aren't we there yet?
I know. Well, it's interesting how that plays. That's something that we can talk about throughout the show a little bit. But Sam, how are we doing with you?
Oh, doing great. As always, but today is a special day, about Blue Jays. You know that, Robert.
Yeah.
We can talk about trade. But let's first start with, me and Elevate IQ. So Sam Gupta, Elevate IQ's focus is enterprise software for the most part. Over to you, Robert.
Well, I think that's interesting that you said that about the Blue Jays, because I think that let's not get away from the sports industry is another industry like manufacturing or finance or healthcare. And they utilize, AI just like everybody else, and the data has to be good. And I believe it's a big deal. And, Major League Baseball utilizes the Google Cloud to store all their data, and they actually take all the analytics and they give it to all the different teams. And so all those teams have a fair shake at how they use it. But what do you think about the Blue Jays? Are they AI driven, or are they manually driven, or both? And does it matter if they use AI or not?
Yeah, so I'll be very happy with AI, Robert, as long as it works in Blue Jays' favor. That's the only condition I have. And right now, I don't think it's working. So
why don't you think it's working?
It's not working in Blue Jays' favor, the kind of players that we want. I mean, we wanted some players from Cardinals, but you guys did not sell us. So,
Well, it's about money at the end of the day, just like everything else. But you can't. One of the things that baseball that I've never really liked is that the collective bargaining agreement really takes away from the true fan experience, because the teams are not equal, because they don't have a salary cap, and the ones with the more money can spend it and get the better players. And we've seen that with the Yankees and some of the other ones like the Red Sox and et cetera. But the Cardinals, they were one of the first to see this when Pujols left a long time ago.
yeah.
They wanted to sign him. We'll get into the stories in a second. But they wanted to sign him for 10 years, $250 million, which is not a lot today, but still an enormous amount of money. But it would have crippled the organization to not get other players. And that's what the smaller teams cannot really spend as much as the bigger teams and actually be equal from that perspective. But some of the teams like the Blue Jays, who don't spend as much, and even like the Tampa Bay Rays, have held their own based on talent to survive. But they can't keep the longevity because those players go for the money later.
So as far as my understanding goes of the Blue Jays, I think they are the third spender right now. They
Oh,
are
they
spending
are?
a lot. They are spending a lot. And I
Wow.
completely agree with you that the system is unfair, but it's business. I mean, it's not meant to be fair, I
Well,
guess.
Well, all the other sports have these collective bargaining agreements, and they have salary caps. And so that's where AI comes in big, where it's more complicated with those, which players to use and how it's driven from the data, where baseball is more driven from the money. But anyways, what do you guys all think before we jump into the first story? Not sports fans, or you are?
Let me put it this way: the words business and sports in one sentence are an abomination. Yeah, simple as.
Okay. Why so?
Why is
Why so?
that?
Yeah.
Because sports, well, where does sports come from? It's an activity you do for fun, right? So, and if you see what's happening, the ones we have are given. And fair or not fair, what I think is they are missing guardrails, like in AI systems.
Good points. Well, at the end of the day, it's another industry, and I actually think it's an industry that is can be a practical example of how other industries could utilize certain innovations that are in sport. And it's actually easy to understand, like Wimbledon or the golf matches, or even football or baseball with the umpires and things of that nature. It's a showcase for how AI is utilized, that you could see how it could improve a production facility, optimize inventory, things of that nature. Supply chain, it's a gigantic component of that if data is in order and your software is set up correctly to take advantage of it. And Sam, I think that's another discussion that, how is ERP and supply chain going to change over the years with these new innovations? Because I think they're going to completely be overhauled, but it's another story.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you, sports, casinos, and the porn industry are very early adopters of advanced technology. So, I mean, if you're looking for experiments, investments, I think these are the three industries that you're most likely to get buyers.
Yeah.
True,
Good points. Well,
now, not that I have experience with all those industries. Just want to call that out. It's interesting. I think that in this particular example, looking at industries, so sports as an adopter of the AI set of technologies, and we'll use that writ large, right? So I think that we're seeing it being used to good effect. And the key piece about it is that at some point we going to see a bunch of AI players playing AI games that are now totally artificial? No, it's really centered on the people, because we still are fans. And I'm not necessarily a baseball fan. I appreciate women's soccer or women's football, for those of you that want to, talk about it from an international perspective. I have the Thorns here in my home city, and I'm a season ticket holder, and I absolutely love the team and love the sport. So I don't expect that any of those players are going to get replaced by some digital twin. No, it actually supports their ability to go out and do things and, be on the pitch and really, really produce. So I'm not seeing them replaced by, some digital avatar. And I think that's really notable. We're framing how it will help people and not actually replace them.
Right. The nostalgia is a big component of this as well. So that is kind of what you're talking about. But I don't think that the sports is limited to just AI. It's also one of those things where it's one of the first adopters of how to stream all these broadcasts to the cloud versus have these huge trucks follow everything around. And it allows an enormous component of sustainability. So the sports is driving a lot of different things, and one of them is that. Okay, so let's talk about this first group here, and
business now, yeah.
Let's get down to business. But this company, Orbit Analytics, they're adding a GL component to it, and Sam, maybe you know a little bit about this because it deals with Oracle ERP, but they unveiled. I guess it's called adaptive memory to the GL, and it allows for more advanced reporting, and it does have some significance from querying and accelerating reporting from that perspective. From what I'm reading on this, and Sam, you can also chime in, that this is more of a pioneer from Orbit's perspective, that they're one of the first to integrate this adaptive memory, and it's going to allow for faster I guess, end results. But overall, I'm seeing this as a positive versus a fluff from a marketing perspective. So what do you guys all think?
Robert, you have done your homework well, because even though Oracle is not mentioned in this entire slide, the only way you would have known about it is probably familiarity, or you've done your homework, right?
I did a little research, not a lot.
Yeah.
But
it's on the screenshot, by the way. Oracle ERP users, I guess.
On the right side, but I didn't see that originally. But I don't know if it's exclusive to Oracle, Sam, but it looked like it was originally.
I'm going to be speaking at a conference in a couple of weeks about translating geek speak to English. So this slide clearly needs that, because I don't understand what the benefit of this is, other than you will get your reports very quickly, right? So you were very enthusiastic, Robert, in your comments about this is going to make a big difference. I only wish the copy would have reflected that in a way that people on the edge would understand it, and not necessarily only the experts, if that makes sense.
Well, Sam, what do you think about this, or Ken?
Yeah, so I'll provide some context here, I guess. So, obviously, one thing that you have highlighted, that this is definitely in the Oracle ecosystem. My problem with the story is going to be, they are claiming that AI powered. So, Robert, to your comment, I don't think I've ever heard of them. And number two is they seem to be positioned more in the FP&A space. That's how I would read it. So I don't know if this is more of the AI native solution. That could be a possibility, but it seems to be more of the made up sort of story, AI powered as opposed to AI native. At least that's not how they are claiming. And the adaptive memory is great, but how it is going to compete with Oracle's native, FP&A solution. And for the most part, if you look at this more from the Oracle's perspective, they like to position their own solution. So I don't know how they are going to play together. That would be my concern. And overall position, I guess, I'm not entirely sure based on the story right now.
Okay.
One funny thing is, when I was researching this, the first result, AI result on Google, shows Elevate IQ's article on.
So nobody has ever covered this company, you can believe, I guess. So they are probably the first one.
Thomas, what do you think?
Well, I need to concur with Shashi, because it doesn't say much apart from it based on historical data, pre-fills reports. This is the last line. So that they are more readily available. So, and well, as you can see from my facial expression, that doesn't overly excite me.
Well, I guess you guys aren't too excited. I think this is something that it's more inside of a company, giving them faster queries, faster results, taking the burden off of IT, having things, analytics at an advanced, desire. But I don't think it's, going to really be from a sexy standpoint. It's not going to, not going to pull your hair back, or blow your hair back. It's one of those things. It's when you're inside these ERPs, it's a convenience to help you out. It's not necessarily.
And the question is whether it's not a convenience that wasn't there before.
It's a added convenience.
Yeah, so that's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah. So, do we have any? It seems like a competitor to Oracle's data intelligence solution. I would probably say it is.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting comment, Robert, and that's why I wanted to touch. And if you guys don't know Gbrad, he's from Oracle's ecosystem, so he's going to have a lot more intel in general. So Gbrad, thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for commenting as well. And he's confirming that Oracle Data Intelligence Solution, this is probably going to be a competitor. When I read the second paragraph, it says unlike traditional in-memory processing, which requires static data loads and predefined structures. The way I'm reading this is it reads more like Snowflake. But if you are launching Snowflake in 2025, I think you are already late. That's how Snowflake or Databricks. I mean, that's how this conversation is reading. But again, I don't know whether they are more of the ISV or the product company. ISVs generally, they are not going to have as refined product. They are not going to have as much investment, but they are going to have a lot more proprietary, the code base and the integrations and the compliance, I guess, from the ecosystem perspective. So once again, thank you so much for confirming that. We have one more, and he's confirming that it's a certified Oracle partner product. So most likely it's probably going to be ISV or VAR. Again, I mean, it's probably not a real product, from ISV. VAR, they are not VC funded, PE funded, so they just don't have as much investment, and that's probably the reason, Shashi, why nobody has heard of them, I guess, and we are the only ones who are covering this. Okay, Robert, over to you. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. I think it's obviously a lower end type of result, announcement, but I think it's a helpful component. It gives the clients another choice. So or they might use multiples like the intelligence from Oracle or this, but it just depends who they're more comfortable with. So let's go to the next one, which is Pipefy.
So while you do that, I wanted to say hello to our Instagram audience, where we are also doing it live. It's an experiment for the past couple of episodes that I've been on. We'll see what the effect is.
Well, that sounds nice. So Pipefy is a global platform for process management and workflow automation. They launched, no shocker, AI agents for HR. These are pretty popular agents because the bots will look at different things like resumes and candidates and backgrounds and validations and things of that nature. So the features support organizations, requirements for HR, but also having the agents actually do a lot of the work. I'm still a firm believer that, and I've spent a lot of time talking about Industry 5.0, but how agents and employees have to work together. So, and the resource employees are more of a strategic, where they can validate this stuff. The one thing I think about HR is, does it miss some of the candidates that the employees in HR have, really good visions to find the right people. I think that's a gigantic part of HR. Anyway, what do you guys think about this?
Well, the first thing I would say is that, number one, whenever anybody starts talking in language like this, I get concerned about the effect of bias. So, in a lot of cases, I think that the way that our commercial AI services are built today have pretty much a Western, flair to them in terms of the kinds of data that they bring to the party and how they understand it. And if we're baking biases into it, how do we check to make sure that what we're doing when we evaluate candidates or look for fit or check against skills, are we actually doing ourselves a disservice by having people get screened out that could actually be really great for the role? Because I don't know about you guys, but I hate writing resumes and putting background, and the chances of somebody leaving something out that's important or getting a score driven down because you have something in your resume or your profile that the bot goes and looks at and says, oh, well, I'm going to take points away from you and promote another candidate because they have this thing said in their profile.
Right.
It does not give you a whole person solution.
Exactly. Well, that's part of the problem with AI. You're going to have, I think everybody's just looking at the upside, but the downside is that, and the downside's a ripple through for all industries, including sports, manufacturing, finance. It's going to be there. So that's why the human in the loop has to happen. But I think HR is one of those examples where it's probably worse, because I think a lot of the good candidates, like you just mentioned, can get cut out. I usually would hire off of not their work, but their work ethic and the quality of the person. And so you can't see that in a resume. Right. I can teach someone how what they need to do, but I can't teach them how to work. And that's not in the resume. And that's a problem.
I like the way this is written. So kudos to, sorry, somebody else wanted to go?
No, you go.
You're going.
So I like the way it's written. So it's either a fractional CMO or they have a team. I don't know how big this company is, but their target seems to be small and medium companies. I think they solve a very important problem for small and medium companies, because the functionality that they put here, I think, is very difficult for small and medium companies to get without spending a lot of money. I was also very surprised that they have a free tier also, which may be their PLG strategy, right? To convert people. I feel like, Ken, your concern, rightful one, but I hope these AI companies have gone beyond that, where historical data doesn't necessarily represent what the future is going to be, because you miss out a lot of new profiles or personas that are there. So hopefully they'll fix that problem in their own software that they have. I like how they position this, and if they are serving the SME market, hey, more power to them.
So
Thomas, what do you got?
I totally get companies using software like this, because there are plenty of resumes coming in for every position, which, due to the software, and there we are getting into a kind of a vicious circle, are more and more created by bots in order to defend against bots. So the main problem that I see with this announcement is something that is missing, because if you go through the motions and have this machine automatically qualify your candidates, or disqualify them rather, then you're opening yourself to a black box that opens you to liability, because you don't understand probably why this thing came to conclusion that Thomas is an idiot. Maybe he really is, but maybe he isn't. Yeah, and what I'm missing there's the explainability part, which must be, and the auditability part, which must be very, very strong in there. So it's not about automating tasks away, and by the way, automating the recruiter away, which is not said here, but about doing that in a way that is transparent enough so that the business stays in business. because it doesn't get sued out of business. So this is what I'm missing here. And there's nothing to say. This is exactly what recruiters do. And side note, sorry to continue on a side note there. There is this study by CMU that they are repeatedly doing, the agent company. What they find is that HR processes are some of the best to automate with agents.
Well, we're not saying that you can't automate it. We're just saying that automation, we're questioning the realness of it.
Yeah, what I'm questioning is the missing part of the statements that they are giving here. So yes, this thing can do that, and I believe that can do it. However, how do you avoid liability? And this is not said, and this is what I'm missing.
I wanted to add. Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
No, I was just one sentence. I think it's about processes of that company. Period. How do they bring people and the AI agents together in their processes so it's more relevant? Shashis, what are you thinking?
This is a little bit connected to this topic, but something a little bit more into the future. 2 points to note is, like, before somebody signs a contract with you, after having talked to all the wonderful analysts on this call and deciding who to do, people are definitely checking out employee reviews on Glassdoor just to make sure they're making the right decision, right? That's one. And Google's next avatar is called Google's Web Guide. And that has a lot of weightage on reviews, not only on Reddit, but Glassdoor. So companies now should I'm looking at the point here, employee feedback and engagement analyzer. That becomes important because I don't think companies are paying attention to that as much as they should, right? So for the future, I think the results of your company will include what your employees are thinking about you. And you might lose business if you don't pay attention.
Good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from my perspective, I guess when I look at stories like this, I wonder where the hell are we headed now? Because I see overlap. And overlap, when I say what I mean is, when I look at Pipefy, and Pipefy was really hot in some of these stories that we have covered recently, right? Every single consulting company was trying to partner with Pipefy because they were trying to develop their own processes. So our expectation was that Pipefy is going to be that plumbing provider, platform provider that is going to enable the processes for the consulting companies, which are trying to pretend that they could be product companies as well, which is great. But here, now Pipefy is launching AI agents. LLM providers are launching AI agents. Obviously, the real providers are launching AI agents. So where is it going? So everybody's launching AI agents. So it's almost like, if you look at the traditional market, okay, there were telcos, there were, infrastructure providers, there were platform providers, then there was SaaS. Yeah. Okay. And then everybody started doing pretty much everything. Great idea. But then that creates a lot of chaos in the market, which is what I see in the story. I don't know, where Pipefy will end up from the business model perspective, but this is going to be crazy. Too many AI agents, and I don't know what all they are going to do. But HR, you need a lot of them.
Yeah, you got a few comments here. I think it's an interesting and great. If you want to look at those past comments real quick, Sam, bring those in. I think one of the things that it's mentioned, but you can go through them real quick. But I guess this is talking about for more skeptical readers would like to see how transparency and flexibility in scoring ways are supported. But like you continue and you talk, Grady does, and talks about user adoption and bots have to build trust and adoption. I think that's part of the whole process of change management, and this has to be a component of that whole, the company's actually having the pledge towards not just saying, hey, AI is going to be our ticket, but here's our processes, here's how we're going to do it, here's the trust we're going to build, here's our change management process, because the jury's still out if AI, what the ingredients are to get it to be successful. And the data is a gigantic component, but we can't forget about change management and strategically aligning the resources that we're doing certain things, how they're going to be used in other ways. Thoughts?
Well, to go on to Grady's point about trust. Trust is interesting because there's two components to it. Part of it is granted, part of it is earned. And I think that there is a case to be made for what the provider does to talk about and demonstrate, okay, how does our engine, and I'll use the term engine as the broad way of describing these capabilities, how does the engine do what it does? And can we actually show and explain, back to the explainability piece, can we show that we're actually doing the right thing to help produce a better result, extract bias from it, and not just focus on the atomic tasks that need to get done, but take more of a holistic approach to how we're positioning the products and how they'll be used inside that organization.
Yeah. But really basically rephrases what I said about liability. It puts it in a more positive twist, said build trust, right? Transparency. This is, especially in the HR situation, sorry, at an AR panel. An HR situation, there are two parties where this board probably needs to be trusted. One is the employee that likely trusts because, heck, I got less work to do. So screw all that. I can get better through my day. So that is probably fairly easy. The other side is the candidate. And for this person, the transparency comes into picture again. So they, for good and bad reasons, don't have an idea why they are dropping off. The bad reason, of course, is again liability, because if they say the wrong word, well, the company says the wrong word, they have a litigation at the end. And this is a very narrow edge that needs to get worked. So yeah. He has a very good point there.
On the positive side, right, I think they specifically mentioned vacation requests. That process, even in big companies, is still broken.
Yes, but for those processes, why do we need an agent? That worked in the 90s.
Right, but it still doesn't tell you, if you are the manager of a team, it still doesn't tell you who else is on vacation at the time. I mean, it's a simple. It's only because the developers of the software haven't used that use case or there isn't enough pressure. But as far as I know, every single manager in the world today has to go back to his calendar and see if anybody else is on vacation at the same time. I hope they fixed it here.
But again, this is a rule-based process. So if Shashi is in vacation, Thomas doesn't get any, or the other way around, right? So this is a rule-based process that doesn't need agentic software, doesn't need an LLM. So that worked. That's why I said that worked in the 90s. And there I'm quite an advocate for using the right tool for the right job. So you don't need to come with a sledgehammer if a method is just enough. Or more than enough.
That's true.
It's interesting that you bring up the 90s, because the 90s and the 2000s were all about value, right? You had to show business value for things to be implemented and purchased. And I think innovation has taken the front seat, and the value hasn't been appreciated as much. And I think it needs to be more connected. And I think that that's a big deal. That whenever someone comes up with an innovation, all these vendors talk about innovation all the time, but I don't think the customers really care about the innovation as much as they care about the value. And I think it needs to be
outcomes is what they care about.
Well, that's the value that I'm talking about. It's the business impact. It's the outcomes. It's seeing the ROI, and by bombarding us with innovation, I'm not sure that plays a significant role, because a lot of times if I'm talking to you, the customer's talking to a vendor, they already know they have the innovation, but they can't get the business impact out of them or how to to line up the steps to get the business impact out.
Yeah.
I mean, are we really in an age of value management yet? I'm not sure that we are. I'm very sure we are in a cost management model where we're trying to reduce our spend or try to ensure that whatever spend we are spending is actually good spend. I don't know that we're necessarily all that focused on value as of yet. I think that's still
Right.
on the horizon.
I am. Why aren't we looking at value?
I'm not saying we're not looking at value, but I think that from a consumer's perspective, I see more cost management than I see value management.
I see both. I see everybody looking at the value, and all the vendors are talking about innovation.
We have
no. We are
as you all know,
all talking efficiency and cost reduction. This is and innovation. This is the running narrative of agentic AI, and there I'm fully with Kengan. So we are talking not about value delivered, but about cost reduced, and that in a very narrow area that doesn't help businesses identify, if I reduce cost here, how much do I add there? So we are
I mean, the manufacturers care about producing more and being more efficient. So that's value driven. I mean, they want to be able to save money. They want value for any innovation they bring. They want to optimize production, have better quality control, better logistics, tighter supply chain. That's value.
No,
right?
How they translate efficiency is cost.
Well, it's all part of the same.
Look at supply chain. An efficient supply chain is a supply chain that does the same at lower cost. And then the evergreen, which one was it, slams into the borders of the Suez Canal. And all of a sudden, your efficiency is a cost factor. So what I do say is, and I think Kengan wants to say something similar. What I do want to say is that they're using the wrong matrix, insufficient matrix.
Yeah.
I work for Infotech, and we have a site called Software Reviews. From my calls, business value created is one of the top metrics for software review, for software buyers, right? So I think companies care a lot about it.
Mm.
And all of the other attributes that you mentioned, like efficiency, innovation, everything comes into the formula. So I think it's already there where people have suddenly, instead of managing it with cost, now they've started saying, like, we're getting too many questions because people are asking us about what the value creation is. So I think it's a cycle from 90s. We'll go back to now people worrying about business value.
So, Robert, I guess that could be a podcast episode in itself, I guess, arguing about value. So we have a lot more stories to cover, I guess.
Just one quick note. Why do you think change management is so complex? Because the companies have to see value within it to keep on going. I mean, you're right, Sam. We can talk about it forever. But you have any closing thoughts, Sam, before we hit the next one?
Yeah, we probably need to create a podcast called Change Management, and then we'll be covering a lot more about change management on that topic. But right now, let's focus on the stories, I guess. So, Pipefy, do we have anything else on this one? Or
no, I think we can move on.
Okay. Robert, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, let's take this one. Advantive. They have they're a software provider for specifically for manufacturing and distribution.
I don't think the slide changed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on it. He's on it. Yeah. They released the Win, SPC10, which is data collection. I guess it's a high-speed data collection, and it's more from shifting quality control from reactive to data-driven proactive optimization. Sam, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but is this specifically for data, helping from a quality control perspective to gear companies to have the data faster, to make quicker decisions? Obviously, if that's the case, it's an innovation that can have more measurable results at the end because of the faster delivery of quality control, otherwise getting data where they need it the most. Thoughts? And it's supposed to improve production quality at the same time.
Yeah, so I would say SPC falls somewhere in between QMS and MES category. So those are enterprise software categories. Some companies like to club them as part of ERP. Now, if you look at Advantive, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them.
Yeah.
But they are sort of a new ERP company created because you have a financial consolidator in the market, and they buy a lot of different companies and they try to create an ERP. That's how a lot of ERP systems are created.
Pretty big actually, they're a little bigger. They have a lot of clients, don't they? Like
they're literally born in 2022, after COVID, and you would not believe that anybody would create an ERP company in 2022. And the only reason why they got so many clients is because they acquired so many different companies.
Yeah. What are some of the ones they bought off the top of your head? Do you know?
Infinity QS is one. They were really big into the SPC and quality management space. They have a lot of different ERP systems from fastener industry. Don't quiz me on the names right now.
All right.
But there are like they have bought at least 50 companies in the last 3-4 years, and they are all trying to create very similar experiences. I would say Infor, Aptean, Constellation Software. It's a very Constellation Software centric strategy from the Wall Street perspective. But in this case, I mean, 90% of these consolidators, they don't necessarily invest in the real R&D. Generally, what they are trying to do is they are going to refine the marketing. They feel that these mom and pop companies, they don't necessarily know how to run a software company. So they are going to do nickel and dime, I guess, from the support perspective. So that's how their business works for the most part. But in this case, it seems that they have done some release. And again, SPC is a very specific process in manufacturing that falls in that QMS. So they have done something here. But I don't know how many companies are really releasing from the SPC perspective, but it's a fairly important process for manufacturing companies for sure.
Do they focus more on the shop floor or certain types of manufacturing, or all?
Yeah, so this is going to be definitely for shop floor, and there is a lot of innovation happening in the SPC space, because if you look at the kind of predictive quality or proactive quality, or what is that term, from the AI perspective. So generally, if you look at the ERP quality processes, you are not literally going to scan every single product and do the quality, because that will take forever. If it's a $10 product, you cannot afford to do quality. So generally, the way it works is you are going to grab a sample, you are going to test. If sample passes, then your quality passes. In this particular case, the operator has the real visual view, and they have a lot more products going through the whole shop floor experience. So, and these systems generally integrate with the machine as well. So you are going to have the real time quality control, if I could use that term. And they use this for the statistical analysis. It's a lot more operational data as opposed to the business data, financial data that you are going to get, within your ERP systems, I guess.
All right. Well, good stuff there. What do you guys all think? Ken or Thomas or Sheep?
I love it.
When we're talking about availability, capacity, and performance, especially as it relates to these types of systems, I'm very interested in this, and I'd really love to kind of do a double click and see the levels of resolution that they're talking about when they talk what the devices under management, and how does that roll up into that dashboard view that either the person that's actually be the direct supervisor for the work that's happening on the line, or how that gets rolled up into higher levels of management. I think this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I love this thing for two reasons, actually. I mean, this solves a real problem, because if you are a high quality manufacturer, you want to maintain that high quality, and you need to figure out very fast, where the boundaries are achieved or where you're getting into a warning level. So this solves a real problem. This is great. Yeah. It also goes into value. This is the other part. So what's the outcome? Why should I buy this? Why should I use it? And the third one is there's no AI in there. They are talking telling it what it is. So it's advanced analytics. It's not AI, it's advanced analytics, which is refreshing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's honest. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think messaging wise, it's on the dot, explains it very clearly. If I had somebody who is looking for manufacturing software that the operators at the line level can use, I'd probably send them this press release for interest, right?
Yeah.
So well done on the messaging.
Any last thoughts on this, guys?
No, we can move on
to the next one. Okay.
Yeah, we're really moving quick now since Sam, put the gauntlet down. Enough for the value. I mean, Thomas won't stop talking about value. It's like, okay, Thomas.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Well, sometimes I need to say something positive too.
That's true. So Aquant, AI for enterprise service and technical support. So they're launching RAC, which is retrieval-augmented, conversational, context-aware conversational AI. And this is a kind of a new thing where it's more of a proactive agent. And this is something that could help, with a lot of we've talked about customer service and maintenance and field service, and a proactive agent could be a pretty big deal in those areas, and helping with some of the things. But it will go back to what we talked about a few frames ago, where you have to trust, your systems, and it has to be able to be integrated where you can rely on it. So I think this is a great technical leap, but at the same time, I have some concerns on, the transformation of this and getting it integrated and working where it's at the level where it needs to be. What do you guys all think?
If this works, this is big. Why is it big? Because there are two basic concepts or basic situations where agentic or software is currently employed, which is what is called single step or multi-step. Agentic AI works fairly well in the single step scenario. So it means you give a prompt and get an answer, where the whole context is within the prompt and you get an answer. That is, meanwhile, fairly okay, caveat in some areas. There are a couple of areas, it's pretty well documented even in scientific studies. We have these things, I'm inclined to say utterly fail, is when it becomes multi-step. So when the solution to a process, to a task, requires a conversation between the agent and I, or you. Yeah, and there the quality of, or not the quality, the success rate drops dramatically. If this thing in between helps getting the success rate up to where the single step currently is, then this is a big thing. Else I share your concern. So I'd really I'd love to learn more about what they are actually doing there and what some actual results are.
Good points. Those use cases are big deals to show that. So it helps. And they don't have any of that here. What do you think, Ken or Shashi?
I think, I don't know if RAC is a term that's very popular, but if I were to explain this in simple terms when I was researching this, usually when you ask a question, you get a very long answer, right? Depending on the model that you use.
Don't use Gemini.
Yes. So I think a lot of big companies, including Google, in their search are trying to say like, hey, I'll give you a short answer. Is this the right one? What is your follow-up? And I think the RAC is more likely to be a conversation with an agent than the agent assuming and giving you an answer that you have to go through. So on that, it is positive, but I'm not sure if they explain that very well in the press release that they put. Also, it's almost like this is what people expect. Like Thomas said, if it works very well, it's a powerful tool. So you can keep asking quick questions. Maybe if you're on a call with somebody, I think most of the providers promise that the agent is going to prompt you with suggestions based on the call. So this is very similar to that technology. They should probably explain where they see customers using it much more.
Mhm.
I think that this is a bit of trying to create some white space by talking about this retrieval augmented conversation and kind of distinguishing that against typical approaches to RAG. But really, I think it's more it's not really that exciting to me, because when I start looking across the folks that are taking and doing not just regular agentic stuff, but like being able to have agents that actually manage other agents and work, and going through a flow of work where you can actually change out the underlying model that's being used to drive the result. When you can give it memory so that it has some persistence across different sessions and can learn through patterns, I think that this manager of managers model is actually closer to what I think they're trying to point to, and is more general purpose as opposed to what we're seeing here. So I think that the devil's in the details, and I would definitely be interested in finding out more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm completely with you guys. I guess I would have loved to have John Reed in this room because he gets really technical and deep in the subject, right? He has done a lot of research in this area. But, from my perspective, I guess, so I'm going to have very similar questions as you guys. Number one, we have seen this thing happening with OpenAI and ChatGPT as well. If you follow the prompt, it does a little bit of rethinking, it does a little bit of retrieval, but obviously that's not a real collaboration, or taking out of the context data, which is going to be your own internal data. But then my take on this is going to be, how does it overlap with, what is that, map, I guess, right? Map is the server or the infrastructure where it can augment data. So how is that gonna augment with that? And then the other comment I'm going to have is, we had that, Chinese competitor for OpenAI. That was a big story. I don't remember the name.
Oh, DeepSeek.
DeepSeek, right? So DeepSeek. Now, how does this story overlap with that? Because my understanding was that DeepSeek was really deep into conversations. And that sounds like really deep into conversations. So, so how deep are we going here? That's number one question. And number two, which depth are we talking about, and who lines up where, I guess?
The problem is you want value. Quote Robert, means you want correct outputs.
Yeah.
I just posted 2 studies. The first one is by Salesforce Research, and the other one is by Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah.
Both from May, published in May, I think. So they basically say, well, the first one basically says, because the second one doesn't really differentiate between single step and multi-step, they suck in multi-step. Simple as. Yeah. So this is a big problem, a very big problem, because the whole promise of value via efficiency is not given, is not fulfilled if you need to validate a lot. Means these systems basically they need to run more or less autonomously, and the verification by a human must be an exception process, not the normal process. So, and if this helps getting the exception rate, well, getting the normal to the exception, the current normal to the exception means failure to the exception, then this is a big thing. They are on a very big thing. If not, then obviously not so much. As said, so if there's someone from Aquant currently there, reach out as I do, because this is quite interesting.
Okay. Well, that's pretty. I like what you're saying about that. I guess Thomas and Sam and everybody, why don't we go to conclusion here instead of going to another one, because I think we're going to run out of time. But I was going to ask everybody to kind of conclude and talk about, when you buy something, do you look at the value or the innovation? And what have you bought lately? It could be like an example.
I knew where this was going.
No, let me give you an example. It could be like you're going to buy a refrigerator, and is there more value, or do you need the innovative components of that? So how are you a traditionalist? Does value come first, or does innovation? Do you need that cool shiny new car? So we'll start with Thomas, you only have a minute here. You spent 27 and a half minutes. I clocked you.
Okay, so let's be fast. The answer is that depends. So usually when I buy something, I have a problem that I want to have solved.
But let me interrupt you real quick. Value, innovation, or emotion? Now go. Sorry.
Well, now it's three. In the normal iteration, like this thing I'm sitting on here right now. Huh? As I said earlier, I'm sitting in an empty house, so I needed something. In the near future, I need a garden set, so I preponed that purchase. So value is, I will have something in my garden, something to sit on right now. It's affordable. That's the value. Hopefully it lasts. And of course, I like it. So that's the emotional part of it. There's the other situation where I want to try something out. Earlier this year, I bought myself some Meta Ray-Bans. Not because I desperately needed another set of sun gigs or sunshades, but I wanted to try these things out. That was innovation. But that's the geek in me.
So Shashi, you're up.
Mostly, I judge it by value. The question that I ask is, do I need it or do I want it? The only exception, like Thomas, is like trying new technology. I always like to be not necessarily whatever is the latest gadget that everybody's buying, but something that's new and not yet popular. I definitely want to try that out.
Yeah.
I'm an early adopter of Google Glasses, but it didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Well, one who admits it, even.
And
well, if you were to ask my wife, I think she would say I'm an emotional buyer. But I actually don't think, for the most part, that I am. I like what she said, which is around the need versus want. So when it comes to the things I need, I'm really not looking for cutting edge or cool. As a matter of fact, from a technologist perspective, I think I'm a bit of I lean more towards Luddite, because I really don't need necessarily the latest technology. I need something that's going to give me what I want and not be spending through the nose for it, because I know that it's going to be obsolete in 12 months anyway. So give me the tried and true, and I'll deal with the whatever warts that go along with that.
Well said. I do think that we all buy. I teach a class on consumer behavior. I think we all buy on emotion. I think that's the number one thing that how people buy. I do think that the value has to be there after that, because you want to talk yourself back into it, that it was worth it to buy it. But at the same time, it's fun to experiment with new innovations. You get excited about getting a new phone or a new car, but it's how interested everybody is in what they first purchased, and they're so uptight about keeping it whatever, it's clean or safeguarded, but then like 6 months later they're like throwing it around or whatever. But I think emotion is the number one driver in purchases, and it's just my opinion. But Sam, over to you.
Yeah, so in my case, Ken, I think it's going to be opposite. Okay, so my wife is probably going to be an emotional buyer, and she's probably not going to agree with that. In my case, I don't think I can. I can qualify as the emotional buyer. But the way I personally like to look at these things, Robert, if you are asking for my opinion,
yep.
I always look for, what do I care for? Okay, do I care for innovation? Sometimes I do. Because you want that first mover advantage.
Yep.
I'm not going to completely ignore that, but I'm not going to be the first guy jumping on something that nobody has ever tried. That would be Ken, not me. I want to see Ken first, whether he's going to be successful or not going to work out, and then probably I can try that. So that would be my take. In terms of and value, in my personal experience, is very subjective, depending upon what you really care for. Everybody has very different needs. Some people have very emotional needs, but it might not be for everybody. So that's it, I guess. Do you want to close, Robert?
Yeah, well, thank you everybody for joining. We had a really nice time today, and I think we got some really interesting conversations. We'll look forward to everybody joining us in the future for episode 29 next week. Thank you all for joining, Robert, Kramer, and team here. Analysts Gone Wild. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.